Hey, so this is the Drunkalogs, a podcast about addiction and recovery in which each guest shares their version of how it was, what happened, and how it is now, and then endures a half-hour Q&A at the hands of your host, Nick Morton. I met my next guest on the tennis court, and when one of the other players asked him about his lightning bolt tattoo, he told a story that made me immediately ask him to be on the pod. Little did I realize he was the son of the famous Commodores co-founder, William King. He grew up in LA and was a pretty straight arrow through high school, where he became a baseball prospect who earned himself a spot in the highly competitive program at Long Beach State. But booze quickly became his way of belonging, and then his undoing, as his alcohol abuse compounded a case of the yips that prevented him from making the toss from shortstop to first base. His story from there finds him skidding along the bottom, but never really hitting it, until a relapse on his honeymoon changes everything forever. Won't you please welcome Ryan King? And where are you from?
Born in Alabama, raised in the Los Angeles, basically, area.
When did you move to LA?
When I was 2.5.
2.5, right. And what brought your parents out here?
Work. You know, my dad was born and raised in Alabama.
Right.
Met my mom, I believe, in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Alabama, and then we moved to Atlanta, and then we moved from Atlanta to LA when I was about 3.
And what part of LA were you in?
I was in Beverly Hills and Hancock Park.
Nice. And what kind of work were they doing?
My father's an entertainer. He's a musician in a band called the Commodores.
Oh, no way.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's wild. I had no idea.
Mm.
How cool.
Yeah, it
and
was
so
cool.
Growing up, was like music everywhere? Like, was there always like cool people in your house? Listen to me, I'm such a dork.
No, to be honest, like growing up, I was really removed from the whole industry and the whole business. My father and my mother never drank.
Right.
They weren't partiers.
Right.
They had other things going on,
Right.
but that wasn't one of them. So
Right.
my dad was one of those people where you'd see him on TV and whatnot. I think he was this big personality, but when he came home, all he wanted to do was just like watch tennis and like chill.
Watch tennis. It sounds like me.
Eat
My
peanuts.
kids are like, "Oh fuck, Dad's watching tennis again."
That's it. I'll tell you right now, if you want to know what he's doing, he's somewhere watching tennis. I'm telling you.
Where does he live now?
Atlanta.
No way.
He moved back
Amazing.
about 15 years ago.
And and do you have siblings?
I'm the oldest of 4.
Oldest of 4,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you went to elementary school here in LA,
Yep.
and then when did you pick up a drink for the first time?
Ooh, the first time was at a bar mitzvah. I think I was 12 years old.
Right.
It was someone had
Nice.
left it sitting on the table.
Uh-huh.
And I always loved the smell.
Right. And was it wine?
It was
or
beer.
Right.
It was a canned beer.
Right.
I remember it must have been like it was a gold can.
Right.
So I'm thinking that's Michelob.
Yeah. And did you, or maybe Miller? I guess Miller's got some gold. Did it affect you?
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so. I didn't take enough. I took a big swig. I was worried parents were watching.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like most
Did you
people.
like tell your friends and shit? Like, or were they around?
No, I was too scared to tell anybody.
Right. And were you like a popular kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I was well received.
Right. And so then when did you like start like? How did that evolve from there? Like drinking and stuff?
I never had booze around the house.
Right.
But something about it, I just knew I was always interested in it.
Right.
Junior year, I got invited to prom, and that was the first time I ever got drunk.
Right.
And
did someone like smuggle booze into prom or
oh
something?
yeah, boom! We got the wine coolers.
Oh right.
You
So
know.
what year is this? We're talking like
We're talking 93.
93. Yeah. Peak wine cooler time.
Peak wine cooler, strawberry boons. That's what I was.
Right,
That's what I was
nice.
guzzling. Then I didn't get drunk again.
And did you like get like seriously drunk at that prom, or was it just like a buzz?
Oh, I was drunk. I felt great. I felt amazing. Because I was always real nervous about. I was good at it, but I was always nervous about talking to people
Right.
and being at parties. I never really knew if I was in on the jokes. I never really felt like I fit in.
Right.
But now I felt like I fit in.
For sure.
But I never touched it again until senior year prom.
Right.
Drank again, had a wonderful time.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Beverly High.
Oh, nice. And did you guys, were you out of hand at that prom, or were
No,
you
it was
like,
great.
no, it was just fun. It was cool.
It was
You're
just
dancing, having a good time. You're not barfing everywhere the
Nope.
way like most people are.
no. It was when I woke up feeling great.
That's amazing.
Woke up feeling I had an incredible time. I felt like I found the answer.
You're right. And so you go to college from there?
I go to college after that. Still haven't drank.
Right.
I'm not drinking during the summer.
Right.
You know?
Are you playing tennis?
Baseball.
Baseball was your sport.
I started tennis about 6 years ago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
You were a big baseball player.
I went to school for baseball.
Right.
Went to
Where'd you go?
Long Beach State.
Nice.
Dirtbags.
Right.
That was our team name. That was our name. Baseball name. Dirtbags.
And so were you like on the like athletic sort of track there? Like everything's serious, you're training?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And was the idea that you were going to become a professional ball player?
100%.
Right. Wow.
Let's go.
And what happened?
Okay. So that's where it just all went downhill. So I'm at Long Beach State on my own.
Right.
And I remember drinking freshman year.
Right.
And by the way, I had a tryout for the baseball team.
Right.
I was the first person, I think, in like 3 years to make it.
Right.
Something like that.
Amazing.
You know, they don't take everyone every year. It was an incredible program. I was grateful and lucky to be there.
Right.
But I made the team.
Right. Cool.
And I was introduced to drinking then without like any kind of worry, like my parents being there. Like I felt like I was on my own.
Right.
And I literally remember drinking and thinking to myself, oh my God, this is amazing. I found the answer.
Right.
And sharing that with a roommate or a suite mate.
Right.
And the look of concern over his face was like, wow, Ryan, no. No. It's be careful.
Right.
And thinking, yeah, sure. It'll never happen to me.
Right.
And then going to baseball and feeling like, you know, being nervous around the older guys.
Yeah.
And a big part of being accepted on the team was drinking.
Sure.
And I remember like going out the first time with the guys and getting drunk and thinking like, I made it. I'm doing it. Like I'm part of this. I'm living.
And so is there some sort of like first night that you guys all go out, or is it just kind of like a progressive thing?
I mean, it's a progressive thing, but I remember the first night that I was invited out.
Right.
And the coach's son was on the team, and I remember like having a beer with him and thinking like, I'm in now.
Right.
Like, and then it just became a crutch.
Right.
It worked till it stopped working.
And how long did it work?
I think it worked for about 6 months.
6 months, right.
And then the grades slipped.
Right.
I was literally ineligible for
Oh, wow.
for 2 years.
Wow.
I broke my hand once drunk, punching a wall.
Right.
I broke my ankle once drunk, wrestling a teammate on the front lawn. And I also developed the yips.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't throw the ball to first base.
And you were a pitcher?
I was a second baseman.
Second baseman.
I say shortstop. They said second base, so I was playing
Right.
second base, and I literally developed. If anyone knows anything about sports, it's like a mental block. Like the catcher just can't throw the ball back to the pitcher. The easiest throw in the game.
Right.
And I know it probably stems from some kind of insecurity and fear.
Right.
And I addressed that with alcohol.
Right.
And it just spiraled. It dominoed.
Right.
Yeah,
it just becomes sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy because
100.
You're drunk, you get drunk, you feel good that you're drunk, but then you're hungover on the field.
100.
And so you've got this like crazy neurotic energy, and then that just compounds whatever the insecurity is that you're feeling about the thing in the first place.
It's deep.
And so, but before, was there a period when you guys were just like partying and it was fun and like you were going out and just like whatever? What's the party scene look like when you're like a serious ball player?
Well, it's usually at one of the teammates' house for the pre-rep. Like we didn't join a fraternity. It wasn't like that was our fraternity.
Right. Yeah.
So and at my school, Long Beach, baseball was the sport.
Right.
We didn't have a football team.
Right.
It was basically baseball and women's volleyball.
Right.
And
so you guys were the kings.
The party came to us most of the time.
Yeah.
And so it was just really important to me to be accepted by the girls who like the baseball players, the guys who like the baseball players. I just wanted to be really part of that vibe.
And were you like getting out of hand when you were drinking with that crew? I mean, obviously you broke your hand, you broke your ankle, so there was some element of being out of hand. But like, would you like regret your behavior in the morning, or were you like
absolutely
right,
running on top of cars down the street,
Right.
peeing on the anywhere.
Yeah.
Girls I probably was too aggressive with.
Right.
I don't know, lots and lots of things.
Were people trying to intervene? Like at
No,
any
no,
point?
no.
Everyone's
Totally
like,
accept
it's
it.
cool. Yeah, you're part of.
Ryan's
the thing.
awesome.
This is the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that? So then what happens?
Basically, my college experience is just a drunken blur. It's a wash.
So you're ineligible for 2 years.
Correct.
And is that because like you get below a certain GPA and then automatically it's 2 years, or
No.
you just couldn't get the GPA back out?
Couldn't.
Right.
And I've always, and that goes back to the confidence thing. I think
Right.
part of like the deeper dive into what's going on. I've had a terrible time with school.
Right.
Since literally first grade.
Yeah,
I barely graduated high school. I always felt dumb. I always
Right.
felt like I was just mentally I was less than, I guess,
Right.
and it developed a deep insecurity.
And so did you manage to earn your way back onto the team?
I did, but it got to a certain point when coach is like, "Look, Ryan, we love you,
Right.
and we see so much promise from you,
Right.
but what's going on?
Right.
Like, we're trying to help you.
Right.
You were ineligible last year. We talked to the teachers. We got you a second chance, and you're ineligible again.
Right.
You broke your ankle. You just broke your hand. I remember junior year, after I broke my ankle, I called the coach and said, "Coach, I can't do this anymore. I want to stop." He said,
Right.
"Ryan, come on." Like, "Coach, I don't want to play."
Right.
So I stopped halfway through the season.
Yeah.
I literally just quit.
Yeah.
Basically because I just wanted to go home and drink.
Yeah.
I wanted to go home and self-medicate, and it was all so much for me. Like trying to keep up with like the popularity and fitting in. I just always felt so scared.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, like they're all gonna find out the truth about you.
They're all gonna find it out. Yeah, exactly, totally. I'm really not that cool. I'm
not that sweet.
Yeah,
I can't throw the ball at first base.
I'm really a jerk.
Yeah. So, do you graduate?
No,
Really?
spent 6 years there, and I still probably have another 2 to go.
Oh no.
Yeah,
And are you living in Long Beach the whole time?
yeah, living in
Right.
Long Beach,
And so are you just sort of like you become at some point a part-time student, basically?
basically.
Yeah.
I remember one time, my dad. I was visiting home, and I think I had a DUI while I was in college, so I got my car taken away. So my
Right.
dad was driving me back
Right.
to school for something, because usually I was on the train going back
Right.
and forth, and he drives me back in front of my class. I wait for him to leave, and once I see he's out the picture, I get right back on the bus to go back home so I can just start drinking again.
Right.
And I told my dad that story like 15 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like I broke his heart.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that was another reason.
Terrible.
It's terrible. That's another big reason why I wanted to quit drinking, when I really just saw how it affects other people too.
Yeah. So how long between? So at some point you give up on college, I guess.
In as far as grades or baseball?
As far as the whole thing, as far as like finishing school, because you still have time
Yeah.
to go, right?
Yeah. I mean, my last year of school, I got a 0.0 GPA. I did not go
That's
to
low.
class. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to finals. I didn't go to class. I just
Right.
wasted everyone's time and money.
Right.
So
what'd you do then?
I spent the last year just playing PlayStation and smoking
Right.
weed and getting drunk and eating mushrooms and just hanging out at the house.
Amazing.
I really just wish I had spent like the first couple years out of high school traveling.
Right. Yeah. I think that's good for like a lot of kids.
When you play a sport, when you come in first year, they say, "Oh, what's your major?"
Right.
And most kids get 2 years to decide.
Right.
When you play a sport, you don't.
Right.
So from the jump, I'm just like learning and reading and about stuff. I don't
don't
know. I
care,
just
yeah.
throw a dart about what I want to
Yeah,
do.
sure.
I wish I had taken some time to have some self-discovery.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but
Yeah, or like gone and played, like minor league ball for a couple of years,
yeah. Another problem was I didn't go through puberty till senior year
of high school.
of high school.
Right.
So freshman year, making the team was really awesome because I was only 5'4".
Wow.
120 pounds, and the coach was like, "Yeah, but he's gonna grow." And
Right.
look at him,
Yeah.
So
That's wild.
pro ball at that age wasn't in the
Yeah, it
picture.
wasn't gonna happen.
But even for that, just give me some time to like grow, get settled, you know.
Right. So what do you do instead? So anyway, you at the end of 6 years, what happens?
So then I moved back home and I started getting into acting.
Oh, nice.
My parents were in the entertainment industry,
Right.
and so it was always it felt like that was the only option.
Pretty natural, yeah.
But when you're going to auditions drunk
Yeah.
and acting class drunk, it's kind of hard to like gain some consistency with even like mental consistency. Like
Sure.
I'm not like putting pieces together.
Yeah.
And so like even then, my 20s were just a wash as
Right.
well.
Right.
I think I actually could have done a pretty good job
Sure.
acting because I was so nervous when they would say action. I knew it was because I cared.
Right.
And if I could have just figured out how to harness that, whatever that was,
Right. Yeah.
more comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
things could have worked out. But I don't know. Like it was just, I guess timing is everything.
Yeah. It's also such a fluky business, man. I mean, even for the people that, I don't know. But
My favorite story about acting was I was I got a job in casting. I was an assistant, and we were in the room.
who are you working for?
I don't know. Fair bunch. If you're out there,
Right.
tell me who it was. She had a project. She asked me to come in and help.
Right.
Fair bunch is a makeup artist for. Her mom's a famous Patty Bunch.
Right.
And anyway, we're in the room. Girl comes in, does an audition. She's incredible. I mean, incredible, and everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And she leaves, and the guys are like, "Wow." And the director says, "Yeah, but she reminds me of my ex."
Oh, wow.
Such a great lesson.
Yeah, it's so true. There's that weird, like, just it's so fluky.
So fluky. Yeah.
So then what happens?
So I do that whole thing for a while, and basically it's just rinse, cycle, repeat every day for the next 15 years.
Right.
And I'm 33. I get my second DUI, and this was what started the idea of this podcast.
Yeah. So wait, how's the DUI go down? What happened?
The second one?
Yeah.
I was in Santa Clarita visiting a friend, and it was late at night, probably 12:31. I'm gonna go home, and they're like, "Are you sure?"
Right.
Yeah. And as I'm leaving, I think I grab one more beer for the road.
Right.
And it's literally in my cup holder.
Yeah.
And I'm driving down the street, and I do one of those. My car swerves in the next lane, but I turn the blinker on a little, like halfway there to make it feel like it was intentional.
Right. Yeah.
Cop pulls me over. I'm trying to hide the beer.
Right.
It spills in the car.
Oh man.
He comes up. It just reeks like alcohol, And if I know I'm drunk, I'm drunk.
Yeah, for sure.
So he takes me out. He does the test. He says, "Can you put your left hand on top of your head?" And I said, "I couldn't even do that." No, he said, "Could you put your arms out and look up and stand on one leg?"
Right.
And I said, "I couldn't even do that sober."
Yeah.
So right there, oh, you're not sober?
That's hilarious.
So the cuffs go on. I go to jail.
Right. What did you blow? Did you?
I think I was. It was close to 0.2. It was.
Right.
It was.
That's
It
not
was.
too bad.
It was. It's 0.08 is the legal.
0.08. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like point. So it was like 0.2 or something like that,
Right,
close
yeah,
like that. And I go to jail.
Right.
Get out in the
You
morning.
have to go to. Oh, right. You go to jail like just overnight in the tank.
In the
right?
tank.
And that's in Santa Clarita.
It's in Santa Clarita.
Is that scary or is it fun?
My first DUI was scary because I was in Long Beach,
Right.
and I was put in the holding tank with everyone.
Right.
And they even came back and said, "Okay, we're gonna call your name. If we don't call your name, you're going to county." And they didn't call my name.
Right.
And I'm like 21 years old. I'm in the tank
Baby
with like
face,
yeah, barely
Pretty
just getting
boy.
hair on my balls.
Right.
Literally.
You're like, I'm going to get raped.
Dude, it was anyway. But anyway, the second time.
But they didn't call your name. Did they eventually call your name? Or
They
what
eventually
happened?
called my name. It was just like a technical thing,
Right.
but yeah, it was like time is relative.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
5 minutes to me felt like
eternity. Yeah.
yeah.
Scary.
But the second one was actually fine. I was in by myself. The guy the guard was really nice to me, and And they call my name. I get let out, and they say, I call my brother, and he says, okay, I can be there in about an hour.
Right.
And I was like, all right, what am I going to do for an hour? And I look outside across the street, and there's a bar.
Right.
And I said, all right, well, I'll just go over to the bar and have a drink while I wait.
Right.
And I'm walking over there, and I think to myself, Jesus Christ, Ryan, what are you doing?
Right.
And next door to the bar was a bookstore.
Right.
And I walk in, and there's a bunch of books in the front, and one of the books is a Harry Potter. And I'd heard about this book, Harry Potter, and I picked it up, and I started reading it, and it was great. It was such a fun read. And I hadn't read a book in years.
Right.
Partly because, like, growing up in, like, with school and everything, I hated everything I was reading.
Right.
And I associated just reading with that.
Right. Sure.
But this Harry Potter book was great, and I bought it, and I read it, and then I read the next one, and then I just kind of fell in love with reading and reading things I was interested in, and it kind of made me just like more interested in life and doing me, and it led me to sobriety.
That's amazing.
And so I got a lightning bolt tattoo. Daniel Winter, shout out to Daniel Winter, tattoo artist extraordinaire, gave me a lightning bolt on my arm to represent.
When your brother shows up at the bookstore, are you like, holy shit, look, I'm into this? Or
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was like that yet.
Right. Yeah,
I didn't even know really
what had
yet.
happened. You're just like, I'm into this.
I just know, like, fuck, Ma's gonna be super pissed about
you're
this.
in deep shit.
You know, another DUI.
And so, what happens from there? Do you get like court mandated AA or something?
Yeah, I got court mandated AA. I remember getting done with AA and still going home and drinking.
Right.
Like with the guy in the DUI, when I came in, he's like, this isn't your first DUI. This is the first time you got caught. I was like, you're right.
Right.
Like it's you would think like this type of thing would keep me from drinking, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine from New York calls me, says, my best friend from New York, best friend growing up, and then he lives in New York with his brothers. He said, what are you doing in L.A.? And I said, drinking. Right. He said, what do you know? What's going on? He's like, honestly, Todd, all I'm doing is drinking.
Right.
He said, my brother moved out. Why don't you come move out here and stay with us?
Right.
For a couple months. So I moved out to Brooklyn, and a couple months turned into 3 years.
Right.
After the first year there, is when I had my first like long sobriety stint.
What prompted that?
I was in New York, living in New York, just having a good time. Right. I'm on my own again, making a little bit of money.
What are you doing for work?
I'm working in video production.
Nice.
Got a job at this great company called Greenpoint Pictures. And they were, like father figures to me.
Right.
It was my first time being around a bunch of guys that were really doing it.
Right. They were excited about what they're into.
They were like excited about what they were doing. They were consistent and they were like men about it. Right. Like it wasn't like, no offense, LA, but there's a lot of talk. Yeah.
There's a lot of
and these guys were like very serious. They look you in the eye, and it was so what I needed. Yeah. And I knew to kind of get on that level, I needed to be sober. Right. Like I got to stop comparing myself to all these guys who seem to be successful, and I'm putting quotes in the air. Right. But successful and that could drink. Right. Like Mad Men type. Yeah. I got to get past. That's not me.
And the guys at Greenpoint, were they drinkers or were they sober? Yeah, they still drank.
They still drank.
But you realized that to level up, you got to like...
Ryan King, to level up, I need to...
Has to put it down.
I got to put it down. Yeah. Because my drunk... Anyway.
Were you going to meetings in Brooklyn? I went to... just kind of like...
I went to a couple.
Right.
I went to a couple, but not like LA. Right. And I got drunk, and there was two things that happened to me. I got drunk, and I had $5 to my name. Mm-hmm. It was... And I wasn't going to get paid for like 3 days. Right. and I was hungry. And I said, do I eat or do I drink? Right. And I drank because I thought it would fill me up. Yeah. I wake up in the morning and I'm so sick. Ugh. I hadn't eaten. Yeah. But I'm drunk. Right. And I'm so sick. And I think I went outside and I'm trying to find change to like buy just like a ramen or something. Right. I forget. Maybe I found the change somehow. And as I'm standing there waiting, I run into like a high school friend, and I look terrible. Right. And he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sick." Right. Like so embarrassed about. I just told him I was sick. Yeah. And I got home, and I was just so like, "Man, I just can't keep doing this. I can't." And the common denominator with this whole thing is the drinking.
Yeah, of course.
I'm broke.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I feel awful. And so then I got sober. I was sober for 2 years.
Nice.
Met my wife.
Nice.
And started drinking again.
Right.
And it gets bad very quickly.
Really?
And so we're about to get married, and I promise I won't drink.
Right.
I don't drink.
Right.
And the wedding is great.
Right.
Right? Like, and then for our honeymoon, I said, I got this.
Right.
And she said, I don't think so. No, babe, I got this. Trust me, I figured it out. And I just absolutely ruined the honeymoon.
Right.
I owe Brenda, I love you. I owe you a honeymoon. It's coming. It's coming.
Where'd you guys go?
Thailand.
Right.
2 weeks.
Right.
And I started drinking like day 2 while I was there. And it's just like the whole trip wasn't even about a honeymoon anymore. It was just about like, where's the pocket that I can drink?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I forgot my towel by the pool.
Right. So you're like sneaking it.
Sneaking.
Right.
You know. And
she's aware that you're like drunk.
Well, just, the energy is just different.
Yeah,
you know, like people close to you, people that are willing to like really see you, they can tell very quickly. You know, and she could, she could tell. And January 15th was our last day there. Mm-hmm. And January 15th, which actually was 4 days ago.
Nice.
Is my sobriety date.
Right. So what happened on that last day? Did you hit was there a climax to this, or was it more just like get on the plane and like?
Yeah, there was a big incident. I'm too embarrassed to say, and out of respect to my wife too.
Yeah, sure.
But it was enough to. If I ever drink again, my wife will leave me.
Were you like, oh fuck, my marriage? Like I've like we just got married, and I've now my marriage is over because of this.
100%.
Right.
You like Maya Angelou says, nobody will ever forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And for the rest of my life, I'm just like tormented by how I made her feel.
Right. Oh, that's terrible.
And maybe that was my bottom. I needed
for sure.
it.
I mean, that's legit. Like the idea of like, inflicting that much pain on someone that you love, and then the fear also of like losing the most important thing to you, like that'll do it. That'll scare you sober.
Because you're supposed to do it for you.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. Right. I'm still doing it for her and my kids.
At this point?
If something, God forbid, I was alone again,
right,
it'd be really hard to not.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Right. How old are they?
7 and 4.
7 and 4. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, and so what's happened with like your professional life since then?
So,
first off, wait, before we do that. So you have this horrible incident on your honeymoon. You get on the plane, you fly back here. Do you start going to meetings, or do you like call someone for help, or like how do you sort of orchestrate your sobriety from that point?
Great question. Yeah, so the plane ride home was awful.
Right. I'm
just torn inside.
Yeah.
We get home and we have a talk, and I'm crying, promising this will never happen again, promising. And there was a guy. There's a guy in my brokerage who was sober. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of respect for him. I liked him as a person. I approached him, and he invited me to his meeting.
Nice.
It was on a great group called Kingsbury.
Right.
They used to be at our homie's clothing shop on Melrose, and then they got moved over to the coffee shop on Robertson and Melrose. Mm-hmm. I think it was Ed's Coffee Shop. Mm-hmm. And then it's gone in different places here and there, but that was the first. That was the first one. And
that was the first one where it felt real to you. Like, did you listen at that point? Like,
yes, that was the first one where it was like. I mean, I always knew it was serious, but I don't know. I don't know too many people. I'm always impressed by people who are like, the first time I'm going to get sober and I stay sober and that's it. That wasn't my story.
Yeah.
But
it's rare.
It's rare, right?
Story, yeah.
But this was the first time where I felt like it was more than just me.
Right.
And I really had something to lose.
Right. Yeah.
By myself, I don't really feel like I have anything to
Interesting.
lose.
Interesting.
Like if I'm in the gutter on the street, I kind of in my subconscious know I'll be okay.
Yeah. Totally.
But I don't want that for my kids and my wife.
Family, yeah.
You know.
And so you had become a broker at some point before?
Well, I'm still working in video production, and I think do I have my real estate? I think I just came back and started getting my.
Right.
I just got my real estate license a year before.
Right.
A year before.
Right.
And I mean, I thought that with sobriety, you get sober and that's it. Everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything's wonderful. But actually, I feel like my life got worse.
Right.
Because now I have to address the real
you
stuff.
have to deal with yourself.
Why am I drinking so much? Why am I so insecure?
What's the matter with me?
What's the matter with me?
Why couldn't I throw the fucking ball to first base?
I gotta figure all that shit out, man. And that's for me. That was when the real work came in. That was when, it's they call it dry sober. Like I don't want to be dry sober. I don't want to like white knuckle through this. So after I got sober, it was really hard.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard. But I'm grateful now.
And I mean, it's funny, when I first got sober, my wife and I had both been like drinkers, like we were partiers, and like I was like, oh, I'm gonna get sober, and she was like, what? Like it was not just because like booze was such a big part of our social life that I think she felt that what was our life going to be if I wasn't drinking? And booze was so important to me. I mean, I was unapologetic about my celebration of alcohol and how much I loved it.
Was there an incident?
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of incidents.
But was there a bottom?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky in that, like, I had, it had stopped working years and years ago. Like, when I was 18, I drank a hole in my stomach and was, like, bleeding out.
18,
yeah. And I thought I was a beat poet, just, like, chugging, fifths of vodka every day. And, and whatever. I got in a lot of trouble then because I had these medical issues and I had to get my family involved to help, figure out what to do with myself. Like I didn't have any money, whatever. I needed a lot of help. And I managed to make it through that crisis without like going to rehab or getting sober, really. But I knew from that point forward that like it was dangerous, that like whenever I drank, there was the possibility that we were going to be in real trouble. I'd gotten a DUI, but like DUIs when I was, I got a DUI when I was 18, but everyone got DUIs. It wasn't like, it didn't feel like it was consequential. Obviously, there were things I had to deal with, and there was a lot of like shame, but like it wasn't like a huge deal. But the thing really, I had kids by the time I got sober, I had two little kids, and I remember we had this cocktail party here with like some of our old friends we weren't really seeing very much because we had kids, and I had like a big glass of icy vodka that had no effect on me. Then I had another big glass of icy vodka that had very little effect on me. And so I had a third or maybe a fourth, and then I was incoherently drunk. And that was the way alcohol worked for me at that point. Like it would either have no effect on me or I would be, half comatose and just like, and after that party, I woke up, this isn't really my bottom. I woke up in the morning. I remember like dawning consciousness and feeling like the pattern of the tiles on my floor across my naked back and being like, where am I?
Sure.
And but so I was like, I know this isn't working for me, but I don't know what else there is. Like I just had trouble imagining a life without alcohol.
Yeah.
And then I got into a minor sort of fender bender where I had been drinking. But the real thing that happened in that fender bender was that my wife and I had been in this sort of like Cold War about our car insurance and what we were going to do because it got too expensive and we were going to renew it and blah, blah, blah. In that process, neither of us had paid it. And so my car insurance had been canceled. So suddenly I was like exposed to limitless liability over this fender bender. And, there was the woman was claiming that that she had neck problems. And,
Of course.
Ultimately I ended up paying for her car and my car. It wasn't that much money. I mean, it was whatever, it was a chunk of change, but it wasn't like catastrophic, and it went away. But that night when the insurance company called me and were like, your policy's been canceled, I was like, oh my God. And I was so scared because here I feel like I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got responsibilities, and I've just got a level of chaos in my life that I'm not comfortable with. And, and then I also had like ambitions that I had never met, that I had never achieved the things I wanted to achieve. And, there's this thing with alcohol where I was just talking to my wife about it recently where, if I was too hungover to show up for my dreams, then I would give myself a break. And I wanted a life where I didn't have any excuses, where at some point I was going to have to look at myself and say, what were you made of? What were you capable of? And did you show up for yourself? And I wanted to know on some level.
I just finished a book, the Top 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Uh-huh.
And it's a woman that's her profession. She helps you pass through.
Right.
And the biggest takeaway is all these people interviewed, they're like in their 90s.
Right.
Or, and not just 90s, younger too.
Yeah, yeah.
And the biggest takeaway is their biggest regret is having let fear keep them from following their dreams.
Yeah.
Or trying.
Yeah.
It's the fear.
So, anyway, I mean.
Does your wife still drink?
Yeah, she does.
Mine too.
And it's fine. Like, I mean, she's hungover sometimes or whatever.
I get real pissed when my wife is hungover.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm annoyed. I mean, you've got little kids. So when you've got little kids and you're having to deal with them and the other person is too hungover to deal, that is a drag. But,
we'll be like, I'll have the kids and everyone's like, oh, poor Brenda, she feels awful. Like, poor Brenda, I'm the one that's up, deal with these.
Right? I'm the one that's up cooking fucking breakfast because she's lying in bed.
Yeah, but but she's a normie.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife is too.
She's a normie.
Never had the same. I mean, since as long as I could drink, like, I would go out to a pub with my friends and the beers would come and everyone would take a sip of their beer. They put them down. Mine's empty and everyone else's is,
100%.
hardly touched. And they're
100%.
like, wow. I mean, people would be like, and you could see on the side of a beer, like how big the sips are, because the foam leaves a new mark. I would drink a beer in like 4 sips.
So good. That was my advice beer. I wasn't liquor. I liked wine, but an ice cold beer.
Right.
Especially in a frosty mug. Oh.
It's funny, like I rarely drink like fake beer, but at the tennis club I'll sometimes have have like a fake beer, and I still drink it that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So, and I guess, do you think you'll ever get to a place where you're like, this is for me?
The sobriety?
Yeah.
I hope so. I pray for it.
Right.
I think part of what makes me great at so many things is, it's yin and yang.
Yeah.
And I think part of what makes me really good at what I do is that I'm an alcoholic.
Right. Sure.
I just, with great power comes, I don't know. I've always loved superheroes.
Right.
And I do feel like I have a superpower in parts of my life. But those superheroes, there's some kind of kryptonite out there for them.
Right.
And alcohol just happens to be my kryptonite.
Right. Amazing.
So, I'm really good about addressing my fears.
Right.
I consider myself a brave person.
Right.
But when I'm with alcohol, it's like I don't get the chance to harness that power. Like I'm just going into my fears like blindly, and that's not what bravery is. Like Superman is not brave. He's invincible. What's he got to be brave about?
Sure.
You need to have alcohol. Makes me feel like I have no fear.
Right.
I need the fear.
Right.
I need to fight those fears. That's the only way I'm going to get stronger and better and wiser.
Right.
And so that's how I don't think I'm ever going to get to a place where I just am fully comfortable being sober, but good. It's a little harder today. Good. I want it to be harder. It's the only way I'm going to learn.
Interesting. And are you still doing real estate?
Oh yeah, let's go. Thinking about selling or buying, call Ryan.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
I'm having a really good time with real estate. I'm actually I have a lot of ideas with real estate as far as like different avenues with it. I'm getting more into like industrial and commercial real estate. I'm looking into developing short form content for realtors, like putting
Nice. Right.
realtors
Sure.
together with videographers and editors.
Yeah.
I mean, real estate's a beautiful thing, aside from the fact that I'm my own boss, which I
Right.
love.
Yeah.
But your home, it says everything about you, where you want to live.
Right.
Shows like what you want to do, how you want to live your life. And I like
Sure.
helping people with that.
Yeah. And your family, are they like thrilled that you're sober? Are they like, oh wow, Ryan, wow, he really pulled his shit together?
I don't want to put anybody on blast, but my whole family really struggles with sobriety.
Interesting.
My parents never drank because it was so awful with them growing up.
Right, because
And
they
they-
had alcohol and
Yeah.
people in their lives.
Right.
Right. Interesting.
And so they never touched it. And I'm
Right.
grateful for them for that.
Yeah.
But it's in our DNA very
Right.
prevalently.
Yeah.
And so I think that they're happy for me
Right.
that I'm but they're so in there
Right.
that it's it's hard to know right now what's going on with them mentally.
Yeah. Well, cool.
You know.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming in. When I heard that Harry Potter story, I just had to hear like, what the hell is behind that? So,
I appreciate it. And kudos to you. I was listening to your podcast. It's great. I love anyone who like stays consistent with stuff and actually does it. You know, a lot of people talk the talk, but you're walking the walk.
Thanks for listening. You can support this podcast at patreon.com/thedrunkalogs.